This video is going to be about flare guns ostensibly, but it's also going to be about government websites that are run by bureaucrats that sometimes try really hard to help and sometimes seem to get in the way. Don't know which way it is. Now, a quick review. I'm discussing the current flare gun and its predecessors and also RANs. It might be something you wonder about, especially if you're like a video game geek and know about PUBG and other movies and video games and such that have lots and lots of different types of flare guns, but they all simply are like this. This is called a Very pistol, created in the 1880s, or earlier actually, and it's had this design so consistently that it's not really considered a patentable item. Now, on the side of the ones you buy in the United States, it'll have a U.S. Coast Guard ID code or some sort of number on it, not a serial number. They all have the same one. And it says that the U.S. Coast Guard has approved of it so that if you are in an area that requires that you are in possession of a flare gun, you can show them the number on it, and yeah, they can definitely say you're fulfilling the requirement, you can't get a ticket. But you might have wondered, how do they look that up? And the fact is, I wanted to find out too, because I found out that I could get a good close picture of an older, or, well, maybe just an obsolete flare gun that's from a similar company, or maybe even the same one, that I needed to look up. But a couple of details I want to point out about the current one. By not having any metal in it, not only does it make it to where the ATF has less to complain about, because it is technically a 12-gauge pistol, which is illegal as fuck, unless it's made of plastic and yada yada, but also it doesn't rust. If it had aluminum or zinc even, it could still corrode. Plastics don't corrode in the ocean. Ask all the seagulls. Now on here is a stainless steel piece. It can still technically corrode because, yeah, the ocean will do that. It has a firing pin that's metal and a couple of springs, one here and then one here. That's about it. A couple of screws, that sort of thing. But all of the functioning parts are plastic. Okay? And the cartridges are almost always plastic. They use the least amount of metal or no metal at all. And they seal everything. And yes, technically, this thing doesn't float, but I found out there's a website telling you how to make it float, so neener. But anyway, here we go. But the main thing here is, a couple of things that you need to notice is, there's safety issues with safety equipment, and that's why it's mostly the Coast Guard regulating it. It's considered an emergency flare. It's considered regulated that way. So the Coast Guard has more say than like the ATF or your local cops in some cases. One of the safety things about this is, and I failed to mention this in any video, is that flare cartridges that go bad, that are expired, sometimes do something bad. They can explode. I kind of forgot to mention that, but yeah, a flare cartridge is kind of a firework, and if they go bad chemically, they can actually explode. Now, it doesn't happen very often anymore. I haven't even heard of a single case, but that has happened. And a feature of it is that right here where the cartridge meets the firing pin in the breech block here, this area here is slightly more reinforced. That's all it has to be. And right here at the right angle where it crack, if it explodes, goes right to here and right to here ahead of your finger, so that it won't hurt your finger as much. So let's look at the one that came before it, or let's just say another design. This is the Kilgore version, and it was also sold and distributed through Orion, Olin, Winchester, all the companies that are kind of conglomerated for what the flare gun is today. Lots of companies were kind of connected to each other and swapped back and forth. This one has a break point too, but it goes right here where it would hurt your finger if it blew up. It should also be mentioned that the barrel locks into a lump here that also holds it in place better, and they also added yet another reinforcement up here. Now, remember, these were made back when it was gunpowder and corrosive primers. Lots of things were an issue. Also, this had zinc primarily and some aluminum parts, which could become projectiles. And more important than any of them is that if this thing being reinforced with this, and the lump of plastic here holding it in place when it goes into its little socket down here, if this actually held and one of those cartridges blew up, instead of it throwing something to the barrel, it might throw this hammer, the metal hammer, right back at your face. So yeah, you might not want to use this one. That and the fact that people are selling these used because they're a collector's item, I'm interested in getting one, for a lot more money than they're worth. So yeah, just go get a $30 bear gun and use that instead. But anyway, here we go. The U.S. Coast Guard, USCG.mil page has this. You can look up Kilgore, which I did. I wanted to find the Kilgore version. and it has a very short list. Well, no, it's a pretty long list. They made lots of cartridges and stuff. But they do include the Kilgore XII, which is, if you're not aware of it, Roman numerals for the number 12 for 12 gauge. They made lots of them, like the number 52 that was not 52 anything. That's just model number 52, and that one fired a really big, really high altitude flare. But anyway, you get the idea. The U.S. Coast Guard page has the stuff, and it has a number to it, and it's 160.028. That's for flare launchers, I found out, and then it's 1.0. Okay, that's kind of cool. So we look it up. When you find out, I wanted to find out, first of all, when this came out, and I found out it'll tell you. It says here it's a 12-gauge signal pistol, ALLIANT Kilgore Flares Company, LLC, and it was somewhere in Tennessee. And from 1992 all the way back to 1986 or 85, maybe, that's when it came out. So it's a late 80s. So now I know. Now, you might have, I don't know if you noticed this, but movies sometimes use flare guns of various types, altered, spray painted, whatever, for space guns and whatever, because they're legally designated not a firearm. So if you're in a town that's had to restrict guns, they won't count. So they're using a lot of movies, and lots of movie databases and Army reenactors and Army, First and Second World War historians have pages on this, but not these plastic ones because they were never involved in any of that, usually. Now, I tried looking up uscg.mil and look up for some of the words I found, like approval number or manufacturer or anything else. And I found the site doesn't bring up most of the listing I need. But I found this one. This is the cross-reference list for what the numbers mean. 160.028 means signal pistol, and 066 means cartridges. Okay, that's useful. And on that note, I had a backburner project looking up a weird cartridge. Now, you may have noticed that this 2-inch shotgun shell, by the way, that's actually a flare shell, looks familiar to some of you out there that might know about this. It's based on, and I found this out, but never really put it in a video until last week, blanks, shotgun blanks. That is because that would make a simple standard. They're not used for shotguns for firing projectiles. These were based on gunpowder in the past. So that is part of the standard for a 12-gauge flare gun. Next, it was based on gunpowder, but now that we have smokeless powder, yeah, you can get mini shells that'll fit in it. Oops. But the other thing is, there's this company, Skyblazer, it's actually got a different name, that put out this weird suppository-looking thing. And, well, that looks like it goes into a completely different thing. That looks, by the way, a lot like a shotgun shell called the Greener. Hint, hint. Now, the company may have been going for making a proprietary design, but let's see what really happened. Remember, it's the Coast Guard, and it's for safety equipment. So when you look up Skyblazer, you get a short list. You get 3 expired listings for cartridges, one that says it's expired and don't ever use it again for some reason. The limit on how high it would go up of 250 feet is the reason, apparently, because the others go 300 feet or 420. They're better. And it has an expired, this is just a standard road flare that's repurposed for ocean usage, I guess. And then finally, this little thing. Another flare launcher. Uh-oh, rabbit hole. But yeah, if you're curious about it, there's the flare launcher. And it was called an Extended Range Launcher 12-gauge Skyblazer. And the cartridge that was invalidated occurred in the 1990s, early 90s, if you're not aware of it. And there's a bunch of information in here where it goes back to 1986. So that thing was available for almost 10 years. But they had to invalidate it because it didn't go up high enough. You couldn't see it far enough away. Now, their flare launcher that they came up with was acceptable till 2003, and it started in 1998. 97? Yeah, 1997. Now, here's where you find out something weird about the company called Skyblazer. It had different names. It had different, different places the hardware was tested. I want to bring up, going back a little further here. A little further. There we go. That's the Kilgore, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Now, where is it? Oh, there. Yeah. It's a signal pistol, and it's a weird signal pistol. And I'm also bringing up the cartridges, which were under various names. The company called Skyblazer came under Pyrotechnics Industries, and also another company name down here under Sigma Scientific. Just pointing that out. And again, they didn't put out a lot of hardware, but they did put out one weird thing. So I typed in 12-gauge extended range launcher Skyblazer and found weird. No, that's not a Nerf toy. That really isn't. By the way, nice freaking good crop, dude. It's this thing. This is a fold-in-half one with a really long barrel. The standard barrel on these things is a little bit more than an inch and a quarter longer than the cartridge. Some of them are the full length because the cartridge is so long and skinny. The suppository one here has a really long barrel. Now, you might think, again, it's suppository shaped, it has to use a weird barrel. Nope. The cartridge came default having a standard 2-inch shotgun shell style cartridge chamber. The reason for that is the U.S. Coast Guard would not let them come up with a proprietary cartridge because what if you needed to signal and you went out and bought a box of flares and found out they wouldn't fit? That would be a sad reason to die at sea. Yeah, their designation and rules about this stuff is, oh, it has to be a life-saving piece of equipment. Now, what if I wanted to make a copy of this? Now, the reason you can get a hold of a flare gun and walk around with it and not have the ATF or your local police argue with you very often is because it has Coast Guard approval, not because the ATF won't regulate it. Which means if I make a copy of this, even if it's just a Nerf, Mega Nerf dart thing, and this is just the air hole for an air thing, I could get in trouble, not from the ATF or the police, even though they could come after me, because technically this would chamber a shell, even though it's 2-inch limited, it's because it's not Coast Guard approved. I found that out a day ago because someone noted, if you build one of these things, the Coast Guard will come. And I'm like, what? You got to get their permission. Yeah, because it's considered safety equipment. It's regulated under safety equipment. For the same reason that if I make a fire extinguisher, it has to actually work. Otherwise, it might kill somebody because they're relying on it. Okay, now that I know that, let's look at this weird design. That's what the Skyblazer long-range launcher looks like. And they were selling it for $175 here. And this is marked down. The reason this product failed is it was overly expensive, but it was kind of cool. This piece here slid forward and back to lock the barrel. You'll notice from the image that rim on the barrel is far forward. That's actually a really good design. It locks it up by grabbing the barrel after you put it in here and letting this lock around it by this thing sliding over it. That also apparently primed the firing pin so you could just push the trigger and fire it. This is not much different than the weird slide-out versions of the flares that you use in a boat where it fires through a little tube. So, yeah, I want one, even though obviously I don't need one. Just like I also really want that one, even though it's totally impractical and stupid. So, I hope this has been informative. And yes, if you want to make one of these, it's technically not illegal, especially this shape, oddly enough. But even if the ATF can't come after you, the U.S. Coast Guard can throw you in jail for it, because then you'd be manufacturing defective safety equipment. I think you'd be in more trouble with them than if you just, hauled off and just built a shotgun from scratch. But anyway, about this is, it was overly expensive, slightly more complicated, and it was a failure, and it was too expensive. But the neat thing about it is, it was actually much more compact and had a much better range. And now I want the cartridges that can go up 400 feet. Anyway, I hope this has been useful. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And the key components of this are, there's more than one set of designs. Some of them don't even look like what you think they are. And if you want to make copies of this, unless you make them literally Nerf darts or something, you can get in trouble with not just the ATF, but the Coast Guard. And the next thing is that, well, there isn't anything else. So thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.